the workshop series. It's Grow with the Flow. It is based on a growth as a service framework that I created specifically for founders, small business owners, artists, makers, and doers, allowing you to lean into your story as strategy, and not compromise your values as you build and grow your business. The focus is on exceeding your growth goals, and not burning out, um, and going as fast or slow as you want to. Um, I am based out of Denver, but I'm open to having clients anywhere in the Colorado area, anywhere in the Bay Area, Los Angeles, New York, and throughout Dubai, Taipei, and Trinidad and Tobago. So reach out if you want to connect. My email address is here as well. But without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So I didn't tell you too much about my background, but I have spent the past 14 years working throughout various roles in sales, marketing, technology integration. And recently, I worked at one of the largest B2B tech agencies in the world. It was a full service agency doing everything from research, insight, creative, content development, media and activation, and influencer marketing, so many different elements. It was an agency based out of San Francisco. I helped grow that agency from three employees. I was employee number three to I think it was about 80 by the time I left. And up until the end of last year, um, I um, I was an account director for the agency, working with some of the largest B2B tech clients, helping them, create brand building campaigns, global campaigns, national campaigns, and even demand generation. So helping them build campaigns that grew revenue and focused on revenue generation. And so I've spent the past this past year, up until the end of last year, um, really honing in how what I did for these corporate companies, and how I can apply it to small businesses, founders, and artists, and in kind of your journey. And so I'm really excited to share with you some of these insights, little bit about me. I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago. I moved here in the U.S. to the U.S. around 2005. Um, but I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, which is like the southernmost Caribbean island just off the coast of South America. And when I moved here, I thought I was going to be a computer programmer, um, up until um, getting to college and really figuring out that I actually liked, engaging with people, planning events, doing fun things, promoting, which was very different from sitting behind a screen and programming. And so I was grateful that I was able to identify that while I was in college. This led me to again various roles in sales, marketing, and technology in the Bay Area. Lived in Santa Clara. Worked all throughout the Bay Area, including San Francisco. And then back in 2020, 5 years ago, my wife and I visited Denver, and we just fell in love, and wanted to stay. And so moved, I think, a month or 2 months later, and been in Denver since. And I can't be happier. Loving the being outdoors. I've been able to kind of tap back into, the things I love doing. Soccer, pickup games, capoeira, and look forward to kind of getting to know you and you getting to know me over the next couple of weeks and months, days or years, as we go along. Um, you'll have access to this deck, so if you want to dive in to more detail on my background, you can kind of see that here. But without further ado, I want to kind of just go over really quickly with you what this is based on. As I mentioned, the Grow with the Flow, this Grow with the Flow workshop is based on a growth as a service framework that I developed or extracted basically the insights over the years to help founders, small business owners uncover their compelling story, lean into that story, identify who their audience is and who they should be serving, how best to serve them, and then design systems that support them, support their business, and then allow them to scale without burning out. Um, it's a three-part framework. It really starts with kind of identifying that your values, what's important to you. That translates into your story. If you're familiar with Ikigai, it's a book that I highly recommend. It's something at the end of last year that I used over the 4 or 5 months or 6 months when I was deciding what was next in my career, and it really helped me hone into the things that I loved doing, what I was best at, what I can get paid for, and then how I can make an impact and a change in this world. And really, that is enabling founders everywhere to dream and to be able to execute that dream with purpose and staying true to their values. And once I identified that, I started playing around with audiences that made sense, offers that made sense, and then audience journeys. And then I started mapping those audience journeys to milestones and goals, 3, 6, 1 year goals. And that's basically the framework. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey. If you're just starting, if you have 4, 5, 6 employees, if you have 10 plus employees, you just rinse and repeat based on your growth stage. Okay. All right. Now, what I'll cover in this workshop, I'll provide a recap of what we talked about in part one of this workshop, which was developing your story, goals, milestones. I'll do a quick recap on what we covered in part two around identifying your ideal customer, developing that ideal customer profile, developing the journeys, and setting an organic foundation for your business. And then after those two quick recaps, we'll cover off on automate. How do you automate, scale, and evolve your business? Starting to introduce paid media elements. We'll talk a little about content. We'll talk about paid tactics along the buyer journey. So awareness, interest, desire, action, advocacy, how you can leverage these in your toolbox or add these to your toolbox. Then we'll cover off on budget, conversion, and measurement. Again, if you have any questions throughout this, you can scan the QR code to the right. You'll be able to join the community, and I will respond to you directly through there. You can reach out to me. Always down for a quick call. My phone number is 303-264-9025 if you have any questions or wanna get something on the calendar. Without further ado, and as I mentioned, I've pulled together a landing page with tools and resources that you can kind of leverage after this live workshop. And within here, you'll get a link to the deck. You'll get other resources. You get a link to there are a couple of Denver Public Library resources. I also created a free ROI calculator in here that you can leverage. But again, you have access to that, and I will go ahead and dive in. Okay. So during the first session, like I mentioned, we talked about developing your story, goals, and milestones. We talked about this within the context of a fictional company, Denver Juice Company. And really, the goal of this workshop was, at the end of it, was to get to a really, really strong brand story that, as well as identify short, midterm, and long-term goals that will help you drive your business. Short-term goals that will help you gain momentum, midterm goals that will help you then operationalize and systemize some of these elements that you've found out about your business or things that you already know about your business and be a little bit more efficient. And then long-term goals, 12-month, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, that really sets the bold vision for your business, sets the North Star and allows you to create a North Star plan. Okay, so we covered a lot in this first piece of the workshop, but what that about boiled down to was three sections. How do you first take some time to reflect and dream, and hone in on your values. What's important to you as a person? What's important to you as a business? What type of impact you want to create? What's your North Star vision for not only for your business, not only for your community, but for the world? How are you going to impact the world? Because oftentimes when you have a really strong purpose and a why, you're really you're more than likely going to succeed in that purpose and why. We talked a little about origin, having a really cool origin story, and then making sure that you're mission focused and consider what you're doing today to get to that North Star. Um, and so these are some of the things that we did for, or we looked at for this Denver Juice Company, this particular company, which led us to the brand story. And I'll read it real quick so you can. It might be hard to see here, so I'll read it. So this is in the view or the point of view of the founder, because as I mentioned, like you have, if you're a small business owner, a founder, um, honestly, if you're breathing, you have a compelling story, and it's important to lean into that story and leverage that story to connect at a deeper level with your audiences. Um, and so for this founder, for the Denver Juice Company, we talked about after years of late nights, stress, exhaustion, and eventually hitting a medical and mental rock bottom, this founder found new hope through their recipes that turned their burnout into balance. Um, they felt like their youthful self again, and then now live to share this feeling with their Colorado friends and neighbors. Right. So you see all elements in here: values. You see a North Star vision. You see a mission. You see something that's compelling and driving this founder forward. Um, then we talked about the other element, which is how do you then come up with buzzwords associated with the first part of the exercise, to that will really, really connect with your audience, and not only connect with your audience, that will allow you to come up with positive and negative emotional association words that can build that strong connection, because a lot of us make decisions emotionally and then rationalize it with logic. And so if we're able to do this and set the intention emotionally of how we want to connect with our audience, it ups our chances of connecting and being successful in that. Okay. Then the final piece right here, audience reactions to your story, like setting that intention of like, what do you want the audience to get out of your story? Because it's only the first 30, 60, 90 seconds is really what you have when you're connecting people to for them to be interested and want to learn more, right? And so once you get through that 30, 60, 90 seconds, what do you want them to ask? What type of questions you want to ask? For this founder, we talked about questions like, what makes your juice different from store brands, might be something that they want to engage with. And then we ended part one with, again, milestones and goals. And these short-term, mid-term, long-term goals was very, very crucial for setting the pace of what we do and the foundation of these workshops and the business, right? And so for this founder, we talked about getting 200 new followers and 50 first-time buyers in the first 3 months. Then we talked about setting up subscription models and really cool, compelling offers. Then we talked about possibly opening a second location or doubling repeat customers as a long-term goal for this client. Okay. So I'll pause there. If you have any questions, feel free to scan again the QR code and drop it in the community. If not, I'm moving forward. Okay. So part two, so workshop two, we talked about how do you define your ideal customer? How do you better understand their journey and map that journey? And then how do you set an organic foundational plan for your business to be able to engage and reach those goals that we talked about in part one? Okay. And so for the Denver Juice Company, we looked at three possible personas: overworked Olivia, fit dad Dan, wellness blogger Mia. And then we dove into possible demographics for each of these personas, or ideal customer profiles. And here you want to really get into the head of and the minds of your audience. You really want to understand, what do they do for work? What do they do for a profession? What do they do for their side hustles and outside of work? How old, what age range are you looking for? How much money do they make annually? Because that will dictate what channels and what areas and elements you're going to be able to engage with them with. All right. What keeps them up at night? When you talk about some of their focus areas, challenges, and priorities. What's important for them? What challenges are they facing? What's their biggest pain? How do they prioritize their focus areas, right? So for overworked Olivia, you know, she is more than likely in her, in 23 to 40 years old, really, really ambitious, and really focused on her career. But sometimes maybe at a detriment to her body and her health, right? And so once you get in the minds of these audiences, it's much easier to really understand what's going to be impactful for them. For instance, for this blogger Mia, she cares a lot about building trust with followers and authenticity, and building really strong, authentic relationships with local brands, and making sure that the sponsorships that she gets aren't shallow, right? And so once you get into the head of your audiences, it's really much easier to then define an offer that is going to really resonate with that audience, and then a unique selling proposition for that offer. You can also create multiple offers. And again, you would want to focus, like if you're a small business owner and you're a solopreneur and you're doing this yourself, I'd recommend focusing and honing on defining one persona at first. And you can create multiple offers that you think that will be relevant for that persona, right? So for instance, for Olivia, who's overworked, we talked about a morning reset pack that will get her the energy, because you said staying sharp at work is important to her. So a morning's reset pack that will get her the energy to stay sharp at work. And she doesn't even have to come into the store for it, or we'll drop it at home, or we'll drop it at her office either weekly or twice a week for her, right? And then we'll even make it even better to remove friction from her to make that decision to buy. And so she can feel, if she doesn't feel energized in her first 3 days, she gets a money back offer, right? And so I want you to, as you're thinking about your audiences, really get into their minds. And if you're an existing business, if you've been in business for years, you have data within your customer set to really hone in on what customers, when you look at your customer list, make the biggest impact in your business. And then how do you narrow down that focus, at least to start with, right? Eventually you can have 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 personas if you want. But in terms of bandwidth and focus, it's really important to kind of narrow that down into what you have the time and resources to really pay attention to, and build an effective go-to-market for. Okay. Speaking of go-to-market, we ended part 2 of this workshop series with a 6-month organic foundation go-to-market plan for the Denver Juice Company. And we mapped that go-to-market plan along the buyer journey. So we mapped it along, what they'll be seeing from an awareness and interest standpoint, what they'll be seeing from a desire and action standpoint, what they'll be seeing from an action and advocacy standpoint. And the focuses were clearly defined here, and this maps really nicely with the goals that we talked about. So for example, we talked about in the first 2 months, the founder can really get to intimate and sharing their story and leaning into their story with the audience, right? How they transformed burnout into their juice life-changing story. We talked about potentially going to a farmer's marketing for sampling and doing that regularly, so that the owner of Denver Juice Company gets in front of her ideal audience, right? People who are making the effort to go and buy healthy foods for their family and for themselves. Um, and not only that, as those interactions pile up, being able to gain followers and connecting with people on a deeper level, as well as getting customers, which was one of the first things on in her like first 3 month goals. We talked about posting in local wellness and entrepreneur groups. Then we talked about launching her offer. So, for instance, if this was the focus audience that we would focus on, launching that morning reset pack. So many things that Denver Juice Company can do out the gate organically with very very little money out of pocket. I'm sure, yeah, you have to pay for farmers markets and certain vendor booths and those types of things, but it's a direct investment in your business, and you're going to get in front of the ideal audience, right? Like I mentioned, when you're creating these personas, you want to go off of either data or conversations. If you have an existing customer list, perfect. The easiest way is to look at, again, who's bringing in the most revenue or engagement from an audience perspective, and then zooming into there. If you don't have an audience, go to the places where your potential audiences are or could be, like for instance farmers markets, and start talking to people and engaging people and figuring out what that looks like, right? You might be able to even start doing like a survey of these people and then follow up with an offer in a couple of months. Okay. And that was part two of the workshop. We talked a little bit about measurement, setting a measurement framework or scorecard that relates to your business. If you're just starting out, or even if you're an established business, I've found that the product market fit scorecard is a really, really nice, simple kind of format that allows you to check in regularly on how you're doing with your business. I would fill it in, frequently, every 2 weeks or every month. So then that way you can just see how you're moving towards towards your growth goals, as well as how you're moving towards finding a product market fit. Okay, so things like customer love, things like reviews, things like sales, how easy it is for people to convert. And then as we're talking about paid media, really, really keeping in mind cost per acquisition, which is how much does it cost for you to acquire a customer, and then making adjustments within your paid media strategy and your media mix to be able to make sure that you're making efficient use of your budgets. Okay. So this will be included in the resources I share over. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Don't be shy. All right. With that, so those first two workshops were very, very foundational, and the reason why it's structured that way is because um, once you understand your story, once you understand your milestones and goals that you want to achieve for your business, once you understand your audience and that audience journey, it's going to be much easier to start creating content. And what is content? Content is king. It's think of content as worker bees for your business. It's free worker bees for your business. Once you create it once, people can engage with it in multiple ways. And it's not just downloadable white papers or any of those things. That content is everything. Like it could be a video, it could be a reel, it could be you telling your story, it could be you having a pamphlet and engaging with people in person, right? But as you create your content, you want to make sure that you're creating content along the buyer journey, keeping awareness and interest in mind, keeping desire and action in mind, keeping advocacy in mind from a customer perspective, right? So from an awareness and interest standpoint, you're telling your story, you're engaging with your audience, you're educating your audience. It's what we call top of the funnel content from a marketing standpoint, right? Or top of the funnel, sometimes middle of the funnel. When it comes to desire and action, we're honing in on testimonials and reviews. We're honing in on things that are going to make your audience want to engage, special offers, promotions, events, like simple conversation paths that lead to that close, to that conversion, to that lead, to that next step. You should be driving your customers and audiences to one step after another step after another step, reducing the amount of steps to make it efficient for them, to removing friction, but you're making it engaging, right? And then finally, you always want to consider advocacy, because When it comes to from a customer acquisition perspective, it's much more easier to and effective to acquire and do like upsell or cross sell an existing customer, than get a new customer. And um, getting reviews are usually a free, one of the easiest things that you can do and collect. But it provides so many rewards for you as a business, right? And it's a really one of the easiest places you can automate and build referral programs, and also retarget satisfied customers with additional opportunities to sell. Okay. Um, so again, those first two workshops were very, very important because of that, because you want to make sure that whatever content you make is going to be guiding the audience all throughout the process, right? So I want to share a stat. Um, a popular, if you haven't heard of the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 principle, it talks about 20% of your, or 80% of your revenue, your output, your results, impactful results come from 20% of your focused effort, right? And so as we think about that, if we go even deeper, since 80% of revenue comes from 20% of the effort, if we do another 80-20 on that, 20% of that 20% is 4 to 6%, 4 to 7%, right? So 4 to 6% equates to 60% of your revenue and output, right? And so when we really look at, who's in market at any given time, there's about 5 to 7% of your audience, right? So what do you do? What does this mean? What does this mean for your business? It means that you shouldn't only be, from a sales message perspective and a desire and action perspective and advocacy perspective, you should only be having content that speaks to that, uh, work for about 5 to 6% of your audience. The rest, the 93 to 96%, you should be building brand recognition. You should be engaging at this top level awareness and interest stage, right? You should be getting noticed, sharing value, educating, building the want. You can even do some desired things there, right? But because what I see often, too much, sometimes too often, are people selling all the time, selling on social, selling in person, selling on, which is good. You need to sell, but you're trying to sell to 96% people who aren't ready to buy, right? And so what do? They shut you out. They close you off. All right. You should be educating. You should be getting noticed. You should be showing relevance. You should be sharing your story so they connect with your story. So when they are ready to make that buying decision, they think of you because they've seen you, and there's frequency there. Okay. So this, the 95 to 5% rule was made popular, I think, in 2021 by John Dawes. But like, I think it's a timeless principle. Okay. And I know this slide is a little, I'll zoom in a little bit. I know it's a little, how do you call it? Overwhelming. But I wanted to make sure I kind of provided more information on this slide, because along this journey, there's so many tactics and tools and things that you can use to get in front of these audience and engage these audience along the stages. So for instance, from an awareness stage, being able to reach these new audiences and build recognition. From an interest stage, being able to educate and nurture that curiosity. From a desire stage, being able to build trust and urgency and need for what you're delivering, and then driving those conversions, right? Driving purchases, making it easy for that person to make that buying decision, removing friction out of that process for them. And then, of course, like we mentioned, automating that referral and review and loyalty element. So then that way your customers are getting you customers, right? And so there's so many ways, but one of the things I want to call out is socials, showing up consistently on social media, making sure that your messaging is consistent, and making sure that you have specific messaging and content that engages your audience along the journey, right? Like I mentioned, you're not selling all the time 24/7 on social. You should be, engaging. You should be showing the interest, sharing your interest, having relatable interests, right? with your audience. And when you get to the desire and action, and or even interest in education, like there's certain things that you know that your competitors don't know. And this is why I feel and I know that we could be in the same industry, sounding like we're selling the same thing, but you have a unique differentiator and advantage over me. I have a unique differentiator and advantage over you, because I'm a one of one. You're one of one. I have specific experiences and a really, really compelling story, and um, things that shaped my perspective on the world, and my view of the world. And that's going to allow me to connect with a certain group of people. Same, I could say the same thing for you, and that's going to allow you to connect with a certain group of people. And um, but there's so many tactics in here. It should be customized. Your go to market should be customized for your specific audience. That's why we spend so much time on audience and identifying ideal customer profiles, right? And so, for instance, like you could be doing paid and in-person events, paid blogs and features, active PR and influencers. I can't tell you how many small business owners I've spoken with, and artists and founders I've spoken with, who do not have a media kit already developed, who do not have angles, story angles already created, and a wish list of publications and providers and news outlets that they'd want to engage with. Like there's so many things that you could be proactively doing, organically doing, and building out, that doesn't even cost you that much or even any money at all, right? If you need help starting that, I can help you do that. That's one of the services I offer. Um, I also offer organic social media managements to help you kind of stay consistent and take that off your plate as a small business owner. So feel free to tap in for that if you need it. But like, I've included like all the main digital platforms, so Meta, YouTube, and Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all of these. And I've also kind of made sure that we're focused on what aspects of these platforms you're going to be leveraging, right? Because some of these platforms, they have multiple ways for you to focus on reaching new audience and broadening your reach, as well as retargeting those audiences that engage for further down the funnel type of conversions, right? And so I've included also examples at the bottom here for each of these tactics. So feel free to take a look at that, looking at lead magnets, looking at case studies, value first tutorials, Google search, how do you leverage webinars and retargeting and sponsorships and collaborations, how do you leverage lists. The Denver Public Library has a really cool BizBoost researching tool. I've included a link on my website here, BizBoost Research, where if as long as you have a library card, you can actually pull out a list um, aligned with your ideal customer profile and start reaching out to that list and engaging from a free perspective, right? There's also vendors and companies that actually sell lists, and how they do that, they basically they're like publishing companies. They create information that your ideal audience will, like to engage with. They collect the information and subscription information, and then they either sell you those lists or rent those lists to you for you to be able to collaborate and engage and build your business. But yes, so many tactics. If you have any questions about any of these, feel free to give me a call. But the reason why I spent so much time on the first two workshops, because it's important that when you're starting, that you refine these journeys for each of the personas and audiences that you're engaging, and then also have a general kind of catch-all journey for people who kind of come through the funnel and might not fall directly under one persona. It might be a mix of a couple, but that you have like an easy, friction less process to close. Okay, so I spend a lot of time on this slide. I'll go ahead and move forward, because one thing that comes up often is budget. How am I making sure how do I know how much to spend on paid media when I'm just starting out, right? Or just in general, like how much budget do I set aside for marketing budget do I set aside? And typically it's about 5 to 7%, 5 to 10% of your gross annual revenue is what you set aside for your marketing budget. That's not only, that's not all for paid media. There's some organic things that you do in there. There's some team structure things that you do in there. There's some partner things that you do in there, some PR elements. And so, but the general rule is 5 to 10%. But if you're just starting out, I doesn't matter how big you are, I'd recommend $200 to $500 per month across 2 to 3 pay channels, and focusing and honing in on one key persona. So then that way you can refine offers, try multiple offers, test a little bit, understand that what works, and then start scaling for that audience, and then start doing the same thing for the other audiences, right? When it comes to conversion, if you're doing paid search ads or any type of lower funnel type tactic, around 3% is what you're looking at or higher. If you're doing more awareness or interest type tactics, for instance, like social or display ads that aren't retargeting, you're looking at 1 to 2%. You can do higher as well. Sometimes it'll be higher if your product or your service is really engaging. But that's generally what you look forward to. And then when it comes to the thing that I talked about earlier, CPA, cost per acquisition, you're looking to have a very efficient cost for acquiring that customer, right? And so I have a little table right here that allows you to kind of show how you like where when you're in the sweet spot, right? And it's really based on what your typical value of your offer is. So if you're selling hot tubs or whatever, um, and your acquisition costs are around $200 per customer, that's really good, right? Because your value is over. I'm sure you're selling for over $2,000, or I don't know how much a hot tub costs, but this table will kind of help you do that. I also have on my the tools page I talked about. I have a free AI ad ROI calculator here where you can plug in your specific average sale price. You can plug in your profit margin. You can plug in your cost per click, which basically is if you do any type of PPC or pay per click type activities, it kind of gives you all of this data, and then you type in your conversion rate, which is basically it, when the people who land on your page, people who engage and then become a lead or actually close as a sale, right? Um, but that's a resource for you. But I think this table is going to be super helpful. I hope it's super helpful for you, as well as the resources on the page. If you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to reach out. Before I end off this session, I wanted to create a balanced test and learn budget as well as media mix to share with you if you're just starting out, like what you could probably start with if you wanted to test. But as I mentioned, there's so many different tactics, there's so many different things along the journey of your buyers that this should be customized to your business, because if it might be that your customers might not be doing awareness or interest type activity on Facebook and Instagram. They might be on Reddit for all we know, right? And so you want to make sure that you're honing this into your specific audience. But generally, if we're looking at from a test and learn perspective, generally from an awareness, interest, and retargeting, you want to set aside about 40% of that budget for that type of activity, which would be like for instance, Facebook or Instagram. And then when it comes to further down the funnel, we're looking at intent-based uh, leads or intent-based conversions, setting aside another 40%. So basically, people who are searching for the type of service or product that you're offering, right? Um, Search tends to be one of the highest converting. It doesn't have to be Google, it could be Bing or any other type of search platform, but search tends to be one of the highest converting channels in a media mix. And so if you can include that for your specific audience in your media mix, to start off with. It allows you to then set a really cool benchmark and be able to test and scale that. And then from a brand familiarity and nurture perspective, looking at things like YouTube or display or boosted reels. Boosted reels are really great because when you do regular content on your social and organic content to your social, you see people who are already engaging with that content. And once people are engaging, especially if your followers are mainly are your main kind of core ideal customers, then it helps to kind of boost and expand the reach for that audience. So then that way they get picked up later on down the funnel. Okay, but it really, I think with some of the tools that are available, you can see how people are already engaging with the content organically, and then put a little bit of money in to test out and maybe reach more people within that segment. Okay, very, very useful. Like I'll give you an example. So for my business, one of the things I did actually, for instance, we were talking about the juice company, right? If we're talking about the juice company, I would do I would probably have some videos around farmers markets, and then maybe talk a video or a reel, an organic reel that talks about the upcoming farmers market or a schedule or any special guests coming at another kind of community event that I'm going to be at. So I'd be talking about that, get people to engage to that, maybe put some money towards that video as well for the specific buyer personas, and then I would gain followers of people who would typically go to that event, right? And I would be really, really consistent in doing that within the budget that I have, available, right? And that $100 budget can go really, really far from a testing standpoint. All right. Well, I know that's a lot of information, and you don't have a I have a whiteboard back there, but it's not practical to do it on this live. But if you do have any questions, again, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out or join the community. You can see that right here. Um, the Yeah, I think I've answered most of these. The top three questions here. So measurement, optimization, scaling. Um, yep, 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 yep. But as I mentioned, like first you want to make sure you hone in your story. You want to make sure you look at your goals, your milestones. You want to make sure you define your audiences, or identify who those key personas are. Then start building journeys for those personas, and then look at an organic foundational go to market for that audience. How are you going to launch your brand? And then you start testing, paid efforts. Then you start scaling those paid efforts. All along the way, you're looking at ways and opportunities to automate. You're looking at opportunities and ways to delegate. You're looking at opportunities and ways to scale. And automation, it's a hot topic right now with AI. Some people want to automate everything. I say only automate what makes sense and what doesn't feel weird in the audience journey, right? If you try to automate like the conversion of a really high ticket sales item that you would typically do on like an in-person meeting or a lunch meeting or something, and you try to automate that and try to do it all digitally, and it's a $2,000, a $5,000, or $10,000 type purchase without the right mechanisms in place, you're gonna fail. And failure is not bad, but uh, look at ways to automate the things that know is not going to affect or be incongruent with that experience, right? Because you want to keep the customer experience at the forefront of what you do. When it comes to delegation, looking at things that your team can do, looking at things that partners can do, looking at things that, like for instance, agencies like myself, I found a really, really affordable way to provide social media for small business owners, founders, artists, so that way they're staying consistent. Their messaging gets out there, they're sharing their story, and they're doing the things that I mentioned in this workshop. And then when you define your paid media efforts, the things that are going to work, the right media mix, and you've optimized that at a good pace, you want to start looking at, what are some of the things that you can always have on from a paid media standpoint point to start scaling your business. And then you look at ways, all right, how do I, now that I have like a efficient CPA or cost per acquisition for a customer, how can I find ways to accelerate my growth? And usually the easiest ways to accelerate is through money or finance. And so, there are multiple ways that you can kind of get funding for your business to be able to scale, especially once you have like a system and a flow that works, right? It's all focused. So grow with the flow is all focused, and growth as a service is all focused on three main pillars. It's getting clarity and being, having that clarity without compromise for your business, having that really, really strong vision, setting up the systems that support you and your soul and how you want to operate and grow your business, and then executing. So whether that's sales, marketing, technology integration, automation, like executing what in a way that feels authentic to yourself, authentic to your business, and authentic to your customer experience and journey, because you want to make sure that you're building this business for the long haul. And burning out is not gonna serve anyone, especially yourself. All right. Well, reiterating, you don't need to do everything yourself. You don't need to run ads yourself. You don't need to write every caption. You don't need to chase every metric. Again, I hope this was helpful for you. There's multiple resources again on this page here for you. I am still working on. I've put together a few AI campaign agents, but I'm still fine tuning that. But once that's ready, it will be able to help you and my clients at scale, help them develop their stories and expand on their stories, so that it'll be easy for them to build out media kits and angles and things that really, really work in the press. Build out their campaigns. So this one, it allows them to build out a 3 to 6 month email campaign, email nurture along that aligns with your specific audience and specific offers. So I'm really, really excited. I'm really excited to spend some more time to finalize this, but once it's ready, I can't wait to share. And then when it comes to a promotion plan, creating powerful 3 to 6 month promotional plans that align, that are organic, maybe even have some elements of paid in here for testing, but really allow you to like start growing your business and in line with everything I share with you from the grow to flow framework. But again, I thank you for your time. And if you do have a few minutes, I'd really appreciate if you, scan this QR code and just leave a review on my Google business profile. You can search my Google business profile as well. Just type in my name and marketing cues. But like, reviews really, really help. Like I mentioned in the workshop, like that's one of the easiest ways to grow your business. And again, I'm really hoping that my goal is making sure that I'm providing value to founders and small business owners and artists. So please, 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 share a review. If you have specific feedback, you can also just send it directly to me here. Excuse me. But really appreciate any reviews that you have. If you want to stay up to date on what's everything that's going on, any upcoming events or anything, feel free to subscribe right here as well. But really excited to hopefully meet you in person. My Instagram is here, and then here are a couple offers available. My growth as a service retainer starts at $1,100 per month. And really, it's one of the easiest ways to be intentional about growing your business, have the support that you need, and have someone guide you and customize this to your business. But it really depends on what you need. It typically ranges from $1,100 to about $6,500 per month, and it also includes the first 3 months of social media or email nurture design and setup with that price. If you want me to manage your paid media efforts, I can do that for you as well through and my team. And then if you need any type of IT or technical support, or you have some new software, some new automation software you want to integrate, like I am a nerd, so I'd love to help you in that way. And again, I talked about the social media. If you just wanted help with that, if you identify, I just need to be consistent on my social media, I can help there. And then if you want a no-code website, I found a platform that I can build. I can build it for you for only $650. It's a one-time fee, 2 to 3 pages, and hosting for only $150 per year. Which I think it's one of the lowest hosting fees out there. So again, if you need help, reach out. You can scan the QR code to the right, and that will get you to my WhatsApp group. You can give me a call. This is my direct number. It's my email. So many ways to connect, and there's a free consultation when you go on my website. If you go back to the main page here, you just click on here and you can book a free consultation. Easy peasy. My calendar is updated as well on here. So if you want to hop on a call at all, you have all of that available for you. Okay. Again, I want to make this as easy as possible. I also have so typically, we would have an engagement. I get to understand your business a little bit. I might have some recommendations, and I might do a proposal and send that over to you. And then once we get invoicing and stuff out of the way, we go straight into an onboarding survey, and then I come prepared for a 90-minute working session with you to basically knock out what we need to do to accelerate the start of your business or business growth. And so, really, really straightforward. We'll cover basically the things that I talked about in this growth as a service framework, especially the elements that are most applicable to you. In this deck, you can see in the appendix, there are a couple of resources as well for you. I pulled together for the test and learn beginner's guide for paid media. I've included really simple kind of step-by-step guide on how you would set up a campaign within Meta, within Google search, and then within YouTube. But again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. If you need somebody to, just take it off your hands, I would love to do that for you. And it's not just me. I have a team. Over the past couple of months, I've been slowly building out the capacity to be able to do that. But always keeping in mind enough, making it affordable for you as a founder, as a small business owner, as an artist, as a maker and doer. And yeah, I'll just cycle through the remaining appendix slides in here. So this is a paid media KPI example. So when you're building your scorecard, if you want to include different elements and different metrics that will help you create a pretty balanced scorecard, very helpful here. The 5 P's of marketing: product, price, promotion, place, and people. I've included a 6P, which is process, very, very critical. But all of these are elements and ways in which you can really, really differentiate yourself as a business, as well as differentiate your offer, as well as add the most value and impact for your audience. And so, all of these are really, really, really cool levers that we don't always consider when we're crafting our offers for our ideal audience. So, if you have any questions about it, hit me up. Down to talk about it a little bit more. I've included the 2 sales methods that are 2 of my favorite sales methods: the Maverick and Challenger sales methods. Because a lot of what you're doing when you're a small business owner or founder, you're selling yourself, you're selling your story, you're planting the seed for an engagement down the line, right? So very, very important to make sure you're sharpening your sales game. And then this is just another way to look at the ADA model, or that buyer journey. But when you consolidate, what you're really doing when you're in your business is you're figuring out a way to get traffic, figure out who's gonna buy what you're selling, and then getting them somewhere, like your web page, or at an event, or at some type of landing page or funnel. And then what is the quickest way to convert? And when people think about conversion, they're thinking about getting people to buy. I think it's a little bit of both. It's definitely that, but it's also what's the quickest way to disqualify someone um, who does not fit the criteria, or who's not going to be happy with your service, or engaging with you, or might not be the right fit, right? And then what do you say and offer to persuade them to convert and stay with you, right? Keeping emotional connections in mind, and then figure out ways to do that affordably. We talked about customer acquisition costs, and then finally, what's the easiest way? How do you make it remove all of the friction or most of the friction so it's an easy decision to go with you? Okay. All right. I just want to end off on this one. I know it's a lot. I know we covered a lot today, but this appendix slide is probably going to be one of the easiest kind of scannable things you can look at. It's like a cheat sheet. Considers everything from marketing and advertising perspective, everything from sales perspective, everything from a tech, people, and process perspective that you should be considering. Um, Over the next couple of weeks, I'll be pulling out more tools and apps and things that you can leverage here. But there are some links in here for you. But this would probably be the easiest way or place for you to start if you have any, you know, further questions, or want to do some more research on your own. Here you can kind of take a look at what we talked about from emotional connection, emotional triggers, and then how can you be clear about what you need your audience to think and do, and how are you going to engage with them and make that emotional connection. Okay. With that, I think that's it. Oop, yeah, that's it. If you do have any questions, I'll leave again my contact information up here. Um, but I really, again, I'd really appreciate it um, if you left a review, if you found value in this, or if I find value in any of the resources I shared with you. Um, I really, really appreciate, just scanning and leaving a review. And thank you again. Again, my name is Quacy Superville from marketingcues.com, and I look forward to hopefully meeting you. Look forward to helping you, get clarity in your business, and without having to compromise your values. I look forward in helping you evaluate and build the systems that are going to take you forward and support your business. I look forward to really helping you think beyond some of the standard go-to-market strategies and ways to execute, but while keeping in mind that how you are a unique person and individual, and you have a unique business, and you have a unique way of approaching it, and I want to be able to make sure to build something custom for you, and help you succeed. um, with that, I hope you have a good night, morning, whatever time whatever time you're watching this. And please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or need help at all. I look forward to meeting you, and I'll see you. I'll see you at the next event, or next meetup, or next workshop. All right. Thank you.